Ladies and gentlemen, every human being, regardless of age, background, or education, will at some point meet failure. But here is the truth. We must be taught early. Failing is temporary, but quitting is permanent. Failure is a season, not an identity. This truth is one of the most liberating revelations a person can embrace. Too many individuals internalize failure as a permanent label rather than recognizing it as a temporary phase in their journey. In life, just as the earth experiences different seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, our personal growth also moves through cycles. Some seasons are fruitful and filled with visible progress, while others are quiet, cold, and seemingly unproductive. But none of these seasons last forever. Failure, too, is just one of those seasons meant to pass, not to remain. When a person fails at something, whether it's a business venture, an exam, a relationship, or a personal goal, the first emotional reaction is often shame, frustration, or doubt. That's natural. But the danger arises when these feelings evolve into identity. People begin to say, I am a failure, rather than I experienced a failure. This subtle difference in language reveals a deeper issue. The failure is no longer seen as an event, but as a personal identity. And once you begin to see yourself as the failure itself, you unconsciously begin to act in ways that reinforce that identity. This is why education around this topic is so vital. Students, entrepreneurs, parents, and leaders alike need to be taught to separate their worth from their mistakes. Failing does not mean you are broken beyond repair. It means you attempted something and it didn't turn out the way you expected. But attempting is courageous. Trying is a sign of progress. Those who fail are those who dared to act, and that in itself is a mark of strength. History provides countless examples of people who treated failure as a season rather than an identity. Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb, never called himself a failure. He said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. This is the mindset that sees failure as a temporary condition, not a permanent curse. He understood that what he was going through was a refining period, a winter season preparing him for a spring of success. Education must teach people that identity should be rooted in purpose, not in performance. Your identity is grounded in why you exist, not just in what you accomplish. That way, when failure visits, and it will, you don't collapse. Instead, you reflect, recover, and restart. Your inner stability comes from knowing who you are and why you're here, not from the outcome of a temporary situation. So remember this truth. Failure may knock you down, but it doesn't have the power to define you unless you give it that power. Like every season, it has a purpose and a time to pass. Don't stay stuck in a moment that was only meant to shape you, not stop you. Let it teach you, but never let it name you. Temporary failure does not cancel out your purpose or destiny. It simply tests your resolve to pursue it. This principle is foundational for anyone seeking to live a life of vision, intention, and impact. When we encounter setbacks, it is easy to believe that our dreams have been derailed, our calling revoked, or that somehow we are no longer fit to fulfill the assignment we once felt so confident in. But that is a deception. Purpose is not fragile. Purpose is not built on the ease of your path. It is built on the clarity of your why. Just because you failed does not mean your purpose has disappeared. Purpose is like a deep well, situated beneath the surface of your circumstances. You may trip, fall, and become covered in the dust of disappointment. But underneath all of it, the well remains. You still have something within you that the world needs. You were not born with purpose on a condition of perfection. You were born with purpose because the Creator knew that even in your imperfection, you could still rise to carry out something great. In moments of failure, what's really being tested is not your potential, but your perseverance. It's easy to commit to your goals when everything is working. The true test of commitment comes when everything feels like it's falling apart. Will you still believe in what you were made to do when the evidence seems to contradict it? Will you still pursue the dream when the door has been closed in your face. These moments separate those who are casually interested from those who are divinely assigned. Your destiny is not erased by a bad decision, a missed opportunity, or even repeated mistakes. In fact, purpose often becomes clear after failure. The struggle sharpens your understanding of what matters. Failure becomes a clarifying lens that helps strip away distractions and reveals the core of who you are. It forces you to dig deeper, not just to try harder, but to become wiser. Even in sacred texts and ancient history, we see individuals who experienced profound failure yet went on to fulfill extraordinary purpose. Their failure did not disqualify them, it qualified them. It gave them the humility, depth, and understanding needed to carry their assignment with maturity and grace. They became better leaders, better servants, and better stewards of their vision because they endured failure without abandoning their calling. So the next time you fail, remind yourself that the fall is not the finish. Your purpose does not expire with a mistake. Purpose is eternal, it is resilient, it is patient, and it is waiting on your decision to continue. Do not surrender to discouragement. Use the moment to reflect, realign, and reignite your commitment. Your failure is not a dead end, it is a checkpoint. And at that checkpoint, your purpose is still waiting to walk with you into your destiny. Embedded in every failure is instruction. This statement is not merely philosophical, it is a practical truth that, when applied, transforms every setback into a setup for growth. Most people treat failure like a final sentence rather than a valuable seminar. But the wisest individuals are those who don't simply go through failure, they grow through it. Failure becomes their teacher, not their tormentor. The world we live in is designed around feedback loops. From childhood, we learn by trying, failing, adjusting, and trying again. When a child falls while learning to walk, we don't call it defeat, we call it development. Yet as adults, we begin to associate failure with shame instead of education. This mindset must shift. Failure doesn't destroy you, misinterpreting it does. Every failed attempt contains information. Whether it's a poor decision, a missed opportunity, or a plan that fell short, there are clues embedded in the outcome. But this insight is only accessible to those who slow down and reflect. The majority rush through their failures emotionally, blaming circumstances, others, or themselves, rather than analyzing what happened. Reflection turns regret into revelation. For example, an entrepreneur who launches a business that collapses might be tempted to view themselves as incapable. But if they reflect deeply, they might realize that the business failed not because of lack of ability, but because of poor market research or flawed timing. That insight, if grasped and applied, can prevent the same mistake in the future and even serve as the foundation for the next, more successful venture. In an educational context, students often fear failure because they are taught to value results more than reasoning. But true education is about comprehension, not just correctness. A wrong answer can teach far more than a right one if the student is guided to understand why it was wrong. When failure is welcomed as feedback, students become curious learners instead of anxious performers. In leadership, the same principle holds. A failed initiative doesn't mean a failed leader. It might reveal communication gaps, weak planning, or unrealistic expectations. When leaders treat failure as feedback, they model humility and continuous improvement for their teams, creating a culture of growth rather than fear. The key is to ask the right questions in the aftermath of failure. What went wrong? Why did it happen? What can I do differently next time? These questions convert pain into progress. And the more you do it, the more resilient and wise you become. So don't discard your failure. Examine it, dissect it. Pull the lessons out of it like treasure from the soil. Because what you learn from failure may be the very knowledge that makes success possible. The people who build lasting impact are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who never waste a failure. Your long-term vision should govern how you respond to short-term failures. When a person is driven by vision, their decisions are not dictated by present disappointments, but by future direction. Vision provides the compass that keeps you oriented when storms of failure blow through. Without vision, every failure feels final. With vision, every failure feels like a footnote, significant but not defining. Vision is more than a dream or a goal. It is a clear picture of your desired future, rooted in purpose and meaning. People who carry vision understand that temporary challenges are inevitable. They are not surprised when things go wrong, because they see their current obstacles in the context of their greater assignment. Their mindset is not, why is this happening to me? But how does this serve the bigger picture? The power of vision is that it gives failure a framework. When a builder starts construction on a skyscraper, there are setbacks, weather delays, material shortages, unexpected structural issues. But because the builder has blueprints, they continue. They do not throw away the entire structure because of a problem with one floor. Likewise, your life must be built from a blueprint of vision, and when a section collapses, you refer back to the blueprint and rebuild. When you lack vision, failure becomes personal and paralyzing. Without vision, you will see each loss as proof that you should quit. But when vision is strong, failure becomes temporary and instructive. It teaches you how to improve, but it never tells you to abandon the mission. Many great achievers understood this principle. They endured ridicule, delay, and defeat because they were governed by something greater than emotions or opinions. Their eyes were fixed on a destination they had not yet reached but deeply believed in. Their setbacks only reinforced their determination. For them, vision was not a luxury, it was their survival strategy. Vision enables emotional discipline. When you're guided by vision, you don't react impulsively to failure. You respond with wisdom. You pause, evaluate, and make adjustments. You remind yourself that the current pain is not the whole story. You recognize that progress is often hidden in imperfection and that victory is rarely linear. Vision also empowers perseverance. The path to anything worthwhile is filled with resistance. Vision gives you the endurance to press forward even when you are weary, embarrassed, or discouraged. It allows you to endure the silence when nothing is working, the pressure when everything is failing, and the loneliness when no one else sees what you see. So the next time you face failure, don't throw away the dream. Revisit your vision. Remind yourself why you started. See the bigger picture again. Because vision will always outlive your failures. And when your decisions are led by where you're going, not where you've stumbled, you'll find that failure loses its power and your future regains its focus. Growth often occurs more in the journey of setbacks than in the moments of success. While achievements feel good and affirm our direction, they rarely shape our character. It is the process, the grind, the uncertainty, the rejection, and the recovery that truly transforms us. Success shows us the reward, but failure teaches us the reason. That's why we must begin to value the process, not just the product. In society today, there is a heavy emphasis on results. We are constantly shown highlights, titles, awards, status, recognition. But what is often hidden are the long hours, failed attempts, quiet frustrations, and moments of doubt that lead to those accomplishments. The process is rarely glamorous, but it is always necessary. It is in the process that muscles are built not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Failure plays a critical role in this process. It forces us to reevaluate, to slow down, to humble ourselves, and to question not just our actions, but our intentions. When things go wrong, we are pushed to develop qualities we otherwise might never need: patience, persistence, creativity, and discipline. We learn how to think critically, how to handle pressure, and how to bounce back after disappointment. Take the example of a sculptor. The finished statue is the product. It is beautiful and admired, but the sculptor spends hours chiseling, shaping, correcting mistakes, and working through trial and error. The process is long and repetitive. Mistakes are made. Sometimes the sculptor chips away too much and must find a way to adjust. Yet, without that slow, deliberate process, the masterpiece could never be born. In the same way, your life's purpose is not built in a moment of success, but through the long, refining journey of learning from your mistakes. It's important to understand that what we become during the process is more valuable than what we achieve at the end. Because outcomes can be temporary, money can be lost, positions can change, and applause fades, but the person you become through endurance and resilience stays with you forever. That internal growth is transferable to every area of life. Unfortunately, many give up too early because they are addicted to speed and results. They abandon their mission when they don't see immediate success. But purpose-driven people know that the process is sacred. They don't run from it. They engage with it. They embrace the struggle because they know it is shaping something deeper than just performance. It is shaping identity and legacy. So if you find yourself in a season of repeated failure, confusion, or delay, don't curse the process. Respect it. Lean into it. Ask, what is this teaching me? Rather than, when will this end? Because it's not the product alone that makes you great. It's the process that prepares you to carry the weight of success when it comes. The ability to rise again is what sets leaders apart. Your bounce-back capacity, your resilience, is not just a personal strength. It is a leadership trait that earns trust, inspires others, and proves the authenticity of your commitment. True leaders are not those who never fall. They are those who fall, face the pain, learn the lesson, and rise again with even greater clarity and conviction. Resilience is not developed in comfort. It is forged in difficulty. Leaders are not made in moments of applause, but in moments of silence, confusion, and even embarrassment. Anyone can appear strong when things are going well, but when failure strikes, when everything seems to fall apart, that's when real leadership is revealed. The question is not whether you will fall. The question is whether you will stand up afterward. And how? People follow resilience. When others see you rise after a failure, they are not just witnessing your strength. They are being invited into your courage. It gives them permission to believe they too can recover from their own setbacks. That's what makes resilient leadership so powerful. It multiplies strength in others, not just in yourself. Consider the example of someone in a position of influence, a business leader, teacher, coach, or mentor who suffers a failure. If they respond with denial, blame, or withdrawal, it weakens their influence. But if they own the mistake, learn from it, and return with a renewed focus and better strategy, their authority is actually strengthened. They are seen not as perfect, but as powerful in their ability to evolve. Resilience also builds credibility. The more you overcome, the more qualified you become to lead others through difficulty. Not by theory, but by testimony. Your journey becomes proof that failure is not the end. And that kind of proof is what people trust. It's what they follow. This kind of resilience cannot be faked. It must be cultivated. It requires intentional self-reflection, emotional honesty, and a strong sense of purpose. When you know why you're doing what you're doing, you find the strength to continue, even when you've been knocked down. Purpose becomes the fuel for your bounce back. Furthermore, resilience leads to innovation. Failure forces leaders to think differently, to question assumptions, and to discover new approaches. Every great breakthrough is usually preceded by multiple failures. But resilient leaders don't stop at the failure. They let it push them to grow, to adapt, and to try again, smarter and stronger. Ultimately, leadership is not about being the first to succeed. It's about being the first to get back up. It's about showing others how to navigate loss, disappointment, and failure with dignity and resolve. That's why resilience is not optional in leadership, it's essential. So when failure visits you, don't retreat in shame. Rise again. Not just for you, but for those watching you, learning from you, and hoping you'll show them it's possible to stand up after falling. Your past failures do not define your future potential. This truth is essential for anyone who wants to break free from cycles of self-doubt and shame. Too often, people allow their history to become their ceiling. They make the mistake of allowing a moment in time to write a lifelong narrative. But failure, no matter how painful or public, is not a prophecy. It is a moment, a chapter, not the whole book. One of the most dangerous beliefs a person can adopt is that what happened to them yesterday automatically limits what they can achieve tomorrow. This belief is rooted in fear and reinforced by repetition. When someone fails once, they become hesitant. If they fail again, they begin to form patterns in their mind that say, "This is who I am now." And without intervention, that pattern turns into a personal prison. But failure only defines you if you let it. In truth, the future listens more closely to your decisions than to your memories. What you choose today matters more than what you failed at yesterday. The future is built by direction, not reflection. This doesn't mean you ignore the past. It means you extract the lesson, apply the wisdom, and move forward with renewed focus. Some of the most successful people in history are those who experienced the deepest failures. Yet they did not carry those failures as burdens. They carried them as lessons. They understood that failure is not a label, it is a launching pad. They refused to wear their defeats as identity. Instead, they wore them as reminders that their story was still being written. In practical terms, this means you must take control of your internal dialogue. What you say to yourself about your failure is far more powerful than what others say. If you rehearse the narrative of defeat, you will begin to live it. But if you remind yourself that your failure was an event, not a definition, you create space to reimagine what's possible. Furthermore, the skills and insights gained from failure often become the very tools you need for future success. Failing can teach you how to assess risk better, how to recognize warning signs earlier, how to communicate more effectively, or how to lead with empathy. These are priceless attributes, earned, not given. The only thing that truly limits your future is your willingness to grow. If you are willing to learn, adapt, and keep moving forward, there is no failure that can hold you. You may have lost time, money, trust, or opportunity, but you have not lost your capacity to succeed. So don't let your past failure become your final chapter. Refuse to be defined by a moment that was only meant to develop you. Stand up, speak life into your own future, and start writing a new story. One where failure becomes the foundation, not the finish.